So hi everyone, welcome back. In the previous video we have learned about printing various shapes in C using the concept of loops. In today's video we are also going to learn how to print various shapes using loops. And with this, let's come to the type of shapes which we are going to print. So we are going to print these 8 types of shape in today's video. So let's start. Now before printing the shapes, I want to tell you a basic concept behind this printing. So for printing, so you can write over here, in all the shapes that we print, okay, what is the common thing? What is the common thing in all the shapes that we print? In all the shapes that we print are 2D shapes. Right? And what does a 2D shape have? A 2D shape generally has a row and a column. That is the x-axis and the y-axis. That is the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay. So what we do first is we count number 1. We count the number of rows first. After counting, run a loop, because when the counting scenario is coming, what we will do for counting? We will use loops, right? And we will run loops to implement the counting of rows. Now after this, number 3, what we will do? We will count the number of columns. Count number of columns. Okay. After counting the columns, what we will do? We will implement the loops for printing the pattern in the column. We will implement loops for counting columns. And in that loop itself we will print our required pattern or the writing or the symbol and print required things. Okay, so this was our 4 basic rules which we generally follow for printing any pattern. So let's see the first pattern which we are going to print today. So this is a rectangle. If you write over here, rectangle, which we are going to print now first. Okay, so what was the first rule? The first rule was count number of rows. Rows means it is this one. Rows means it is this one, and column means it is this one. Okay, so let me erase this x-axis y-axis concept because it will confuse you. Okay, so the row means the vertical one and column means the horizontal one. Okay, so if you want to count the number of rows over here, what is the number of rows? It is 1, it is 2, it is 3, it is 4. So let's write over here, number of rows equal to 4. So counting of row is complete. So what we will do now? We will run a loop for that, for counting. For I equal to 1, I less than equal to 4, I plus plus. What will this loop do? Will count the number of rows. Now what we will do? We'll count the number of columns. So how to count number of columns? It is 1, it is 2, it is 3, 3, it is 4, it is 5. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So after counting of the column, what we will do according to our rule? We will run a loop for for j equal to 1, j less than equal to 5 to count the columns, right? And j plus plus. And inside this loop, we will print the required term. What is the term? It is star. So printf Over here, let's write star. right? And after printing the column, after printing this row specifically, so this loop is only considered for printing the columns, right? And after printing every column, we are coming back to the first point itself, like this. After coming, we are coming to the next line. I am going to this first position, right? Going to this first position, right? So how do we do this? By using line break. We are coming to the next line and printing from there, right? So how we implement line break? We implement line break by using printf \n. So after printing every column, we do a line break and then consider the next row and print the columns accordingly. Okay, so let's write our code for this rectangle. It's very easy. Let's see. Let's go to our VS Code now, and we can understand it in a better way. So let's go to VS Code. So we are in our VS Code and we are going to see how we print a rectangle. So we'll write main. After that we will learn for loops. For int I equal to 1, I less than equal to, it was 4, then I plus plus. After that, for int j equal to 1, j less than equal to 5, because 5 columns, and j plus plus. And what was our term? It was star. So we'll write printf star over here. And after printing of every column is done, we will do a line break. So how we do line break? By using printf \n. So only this much was our code. Okay, so let's run this and get our desired output. So this is our desired output. If you can see, let's clear it out and then run it. So this is our rectangle getting printed. You can see properly. This is our rectangle getting printed, right? So this was our first pattern of today. Now let's go to our slide part and see what is the next type of pattern which we have to print today. Let's see. So this is the type of pattern which we are going to print now. It is a triangle, or you can say right angle triangle. Okay. So let's see how we print this. So what was the first thing in our concept part? First thing was count the number of rows. So how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 rows. Okay. So number of rows equal to 5. After counting the number of rows, what we will do? We will run loops for counting that. For I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. What will this loop do? This loop will count the number of rows. Now after counting the number of rows, what we were supposed to do? We were supposed to count the number of columns. Now for the first row there is 1 column. For the second row there is 2 columns, that is 2 stars. For the third there is 3. And for the fifth, like this, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now what is the trend over here? Trend is there is no fixed column number. Column number is increasing as the row number increases by 1. Right? Because for first row there is 1 column. For second row there is 2 column, right? And like this, for the fifth row there is 5 columns required. Okay, so what is that natural trend over here for counting? What is meant by the natural trend? Now see, in every row that we print, what is the minimum value? Let's come to the minimum value first. What is the minimum number of stars that is getting printed in every row? It is 1. Why? One star is printed, right, in every column. If you see, 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. 1 star is actually getting printed, right? So what is the minimum value of this or the starting value of column? It is 1. So you can write here for j equal to 1, right? And this is the loop. What is the condition now? So what is the condition now? Now the trend here says that the number of columns is always less than or equal to the row number. Why? Because see here, when the row number is 4, how many stars? 1, 2, 3, 4. That means 4 columns. When row number is 5, how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns. When row number is 2, then 2 columns. So what is the natural trend? So you can say that number of columns is always less than or equal to the row number, right? This is a trend. So if this trend is not followed at that time, the loop should be terminated or come to the next value. So who is keeping the row number now? This I loop is keeping row number. So what will I write? It will be j less than equal to I, because I is keeping the row number and j is print counting the number of columns. Okay. And how is j increasing? J is always increasing by 1, because after printing this j is increasing by 1. So it will be j plus plus. And what we will do in this loop? In this loop we will write printf our star, because we are printing star over here. And after printing star is over, our column part is over. And after printing our column, see here, this part is only for column. And after printing every column, what we are going? We are going to the next line first place, next line first place, next line first place, next line first place. So how we go to the next line? We go to the next line by using printf \n, right? So this was all our code for getting this pattern. So let's run this in our VS Code. So we are in our VS Code and we are going to see how we print the triangle pattern. So let's change this 4 to 5 and it will be j less than equal to I. And that's all. Only these two changes and we will get our pattern. So this is our star pattern, that is a triangle pattern which we are meant for printing. So it's printed properly. I hope you can see here. So like this we print the triangle or the right angle triangle pattern using loops. So now let's go to the next slide and see what we have for printing next. So let's go. Yeah. So we are going to print now this star, this triangle. So how we print? Before how we print, let's stick to our basic. First was counting number of rows. So number of rows equal to something. So what was the number of rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. So we will implement loops for I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. This is counting the number of rows. Alright. After counting the rows, we will count the number of columns. So what is the maximum number of columns? It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number of columns. So let's write over here number of columns for number of columns. So how will the loop run? Now see a general trend over here. We will only follow the trend what is happening. For row number 1, how many columns? 5 columns. For row number 2, how many columns? 4 columns. For row number 3, how many columns? 3 columns. For row number 4, 2 columns. Row number 5, only 1 column. So this is our general trend if you see the diagram properly. So if you only consider this one about the column one, what is the trend you see? The column number was initially 5 and it is getting decremented to 1 every time the row number is increasing and reducing by 1. See, 4 becomes 5, 4 becomes 3, 3 becomes 2 and 2 becomes 1. So minus 1 is the decrement. So you can write here j minus minus because the row number is the column number is decreasing every time the row number increases, right? And what was the initial value of the row? It was answer equal to the column, it was 5. So let's write here j equal to 5. Alright. And what will be the condition over here? Now see, every time it is the column number is greater than or equal to the row number. Every time you see this trend is being followed. See, the column number is greater than or equal to the row number. See, row number 1, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greater than or equal to, right? True. Now when the row number is becoming 2, so the column number is always greater than 2, right? So let's write over here j greater than or equal to I. Why I? Because I is counting the number of rows, right? And we will write here printf star. And after that we will write printf backslash n for a line break because we are coming to the first line every time after printing the stars, right? So this was all about our code. Now we will see how this thing is being implemented in our VS Code by running this same program. So let's go to VS Code now. So we are in our VS Code and we are going to print the reverse of this, the inverted right angle triangle. So let's see how we do this. We will just change the conditions over here. The I loop will remain the same. J loop will start from 5. Okay, it will j greater than equal to I and j minus minus. So this was all about our code. Let's run this. So this is our required pattern which we are getting successfully. Okay, so our code is solved for this one. Now let's go to the next code and see what we have. So this is our next pattern which we are going to print now. So let's see how we print this. So if you consider printing this one, how we do this? Now see, this is a bit different. Why different I am saying? Because here you can find a space over here, right? Here you can find a space over here. So how do we implement space in our code? How do we implement space in our code? We can implement space in our loops by print like this. Printf, and you write here quotes in quotes space bar, and so this thing is printing spaces. Okay, so how many spaces it will are required will be understood now. Okay, so see here, let's see the number of rows first. Okay, what is the number of rows? Number of rows, let's write over here, number of rows equal to, so 1 row, 2 row, 3, 4, 5. So how many rows? It is 5 rows. Alright, so what we will do, we will run a loop for I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now see, before printing the stars, in the general case we always printed the stars in the column part, right? But before printing the star we have to print something. What is the thing which we are going to print? We are going to print these spaces because these all are empty spaces. And how many spaces? It will be 1, it will be 2, it will be, it will be 3, it will be 4, right? If you draw these lines, you can understand why I meant 4 columns or 4 spaces, right? So how will we do this? We already printed this type of pattern. See over here, we already printed this type of pattern using stars. So the same concept, same this column part, we are going to take to that program. So let's write over here for it will be j equal to 4, because see here the maximum number of spaces is 4, right? It will be j equal to 4, j greater than equal to I, j minus minus, because it is getting reduced every time after printing spaces. Here 4 spaces, right? 4 spaces, then becomes 3 spaces, then 2 spaces, and now 1 spaces, right? And after that the space is becoming 0. So it will be j equal to 4, j greater than equal to I, j minus minus, and what we will do here, we will write printf, and here leave a space, 1 space only, and then semicolon. Now after this printing this, after closing this space printing part, this print spaces. Now after printing the spaces, are we supposed to go to the next line? No, because we have one thing to print, that is the star. We have one thing left to print, that is this star. So to print the star, what we will do? We will run a loop again. So let's write over here for I equal to for k equal to, it will be another variable, right? For k equal to 1, because the number of stars is increasing also, like this 1, 2, when row number is 2, 2 stars, when row number is 3, 3 stars, row number is 4, 4 stars, row number is 5, 5 stars, like this. So where did we did this? We did this in this program. See, row number 1, 1 star, row number 2, 2 stars, row number 3, 3 stars. So we are going to copy this same thing to our code. So let's see. So we will write k equal to 1, k less than equal to I, k plus plus, and we will write here printf, then we will write star, and after printing the star, we are every time going to the next line, that is over here, to start printing the space first and then to print the stars, right? So how we do this? We do this with printf \n, right? So this was about our code for printing this pattern. Okay, so let's write over here, this part prints the stars and this part prints your spaces. So let's run this code and we will get our required pattern. Let's go to VS Code now. So we are in our VS Code. Let's run the following changes. So the first loop, that is the row loop, is remaining the same. For j loop, it is becoming 4, and to stars, it is going to print space. After that, we are adding one loop additionally for int k equal to 1, k less than equal to I, which is printing the spaces, the stars, okay, and then k plus plus. Over here, then printf star, and we are done. So what this space will do, what this code will do, this code will print the stars first, and then this code will print the spaces first, and then it will print the stars, because the space loop is first. So let's see. See, we are getting our required pattern. The space is getting printed first over here. This part, the space is getting printed, then star. Space is getting printed, then 2 stars, like this. So this was our code for the pattern, right? So let's now go to the next code and understand what we have to print next. The pattern which we are going to print next is this one. Okay. So how we print this pattern? Let's understand now. It is also very similar to the last one. Now see here, what is happening is, we will count the number of rows. So number of rows first every time. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number of rows is 5. Alright. Now see, how many number of columns? Maximum. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now here also comes the scenario of spaces. How many spaces we are printing every time? It is 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? The same thing which we are doing in the first star pattern, that is the triangle, right angle triangle, we are going to implement the same looping for printing the space in that pattern only, because the row number increases, the number of spaces increases. Right? So in either way you can draw a triangle over here, triangle of spaces. Okay, so let's do this. It's very easy. So for the row, we will run our loop first for I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Okay. Now see, from which loop we are, from which row we are printing this spaces. It is from the second row, right? So what we will do is, over here we will write for j equal to 1, j, it will be like this, j equal to 2, j less than equal to I, j plus plus. Why 2? Because from the second row we are printing the spaces. We don't need space in the first row, because first row is there is a star, right? So since from the second row we are printing the spaces, so we are writing j equal to 2 and j less than equal to I. And you know why j less than equal to I? Because it is increasing as I is increasing, right? So what we will do here, right? We will printf, give a space over here, and then our space thing is done. Our this much is done. Okay. Now we are to print the stars, that is this one. We are going to print this one. Okay. So how we do this? Let's see. It will be for k equal to, what is the maximum number of columns? It is 5. And k greater than equal to I, k minus minus. You already know these things. Why k greater than equal to I? Because it is the trend. And why k minus minus? Because the number of column is decreasing as the row number is increasing. See, 4, it is 5 over here, 5 stars, then 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, and similarly the row number increases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was my code, or this was my for loop for the k loop. I'm sorry, printing the stars. So let's write over here printf stars over here. And after printing the stars and the spaces is complete, we are coming to the next line every time, like this. And how we come to the next line? By using printf \n. And our code is done. Let's go to VS Code and let's run this loop. Let's go to VS Code. So we are in our VS Code. Let's perform the changes required. So what will I do here is run the j loop from 2, j less than equal to I, j plus plus, printf the space, then k loop, I will do k equal to 5, k greater than equal to I, k minus minus, printf starts, and the code is done. So let's run this code. So we are getting our necessary pattern, that is this. Alright. So this was our pattern type 5, I think. Okay. Now let's go to the next type of pattern, that is a equilateral triangle. So how we print this triangle? This triangle pattern is also quite simple printing. Why? See here. How many spaces are required? Let's see over here. Because space is required. See, whenever the first point is there, there is some spaces behind that, right? So there has to be spaces. How many spaces we will now decide. Okay. So see here, there will be one space over here. There will be 2 space over here. There will be 3 spaces over here, and there will be 4 spaces over here. Okay. And also a thing that before every star there is a space, right? If you consider this star, there is a space over here. If you consider this star, there is a space over here. If you consider this star, there is a space over here. Similarly, if you consider this star, there is a space over here. If you consider a star, this star, if there is a space, this star also there is a space, this star there is a space, this star there is a space, and like this, right? So this is a trend. So what we will do first is we will first print this spaces. Okay, let's count the number of row first. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After counting the row, let's run the loop for the row. I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Okay, now what we will do? We will print the spaces. So let's print the spaces now. It will be for j equal to 4, because 4 spaces over here. J greater than equal to I, and j minus minus. Right over here, printf. Space. Okay. After printing the spaces, what we will do? We will print the stars for k equal to 1, k less than equal to how much? I, because from the first row 1 star, second row 2 star, third row 3 star, fourth row 4 star, fifth row 5 stars. Right? So it will be k less than equal to I and k plus plus. Okay. And then let's open our bracket for the printing the stars. Printf. Now how are the stars printed? There is a space before every star. See, there is a space before every star. So we will write over here space, 1 space, and then our star. And after printing the star is complete, we are every time coming to the next line over here. Right? So let's write over here printf \n, and our code is done for printing a equilateral triangle. So let's now go to VS Code and see how we implement this. Remember that there is a space over here and then the star. So this part is printing the space. Okay. Space. This part printing the stars. Okay. So let's go to VS Code now. So we are in our VS Code. And let's see how we implement this. So the first loop, that is the number of rows remain as it is. J loop will become start from 4, j greater than equal to I, and j is decrementing. Okay, then over here k loop will start from 1, k less than equal to I, k plus plus, then print stars, and that's all. Let's see if our code is making correctly or not. I'm sorry, I missed a space over here. Let's give the space. Yeah, we have implemented the space. Let's see. So we are getting our equilateral triangle, which was our required pattern for printing. The first time it did not come because I missed giving a space over here. Right? I missed giving a space, this one. this space I missed out. So for that reason, our pattern was not coming previously, and now it's coming properly. Let's run this again and check. Yeah, so it is coming properly. So this was our code for printing an equilateral triangle. Okay, so let's go to our next pattern printing and let's see what we have next. Let's go to our slide part. So the same thing like the previous one, but a inverted triangle in this case. So how we do this? This is an inverted triangle, the same thing that we did in the previous one. Now see, let's see how the space is getting printed. But before the space, the first thing as per our rule was to count the number of rows. How many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 rows. So number of rows equal to 5. So looks for that. For I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Okay. So this was our number of row counting. After that, what comes first? See here. Let's leave the first case. From the second row onwards, you can see that space is coming. One space is coming, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? A space is coming in front. Except the first row, from the second row onwards, we can see a trend, that is a space is coming. And how the space is coming? The space is coming in that pattern that the number of row increases and the number of space is also increasing, right? As the number of row increases, the number of space is also increasing. So how we implement this for the printing the spaces? So from which row? Remember from which row the space is getting printed? That is from the second row. So how will we do this? It will be for j equal to 2, j less than equal to I, j plus plus. Why j equal to 2? Because from the second row onwards, the space is getting printed. In the first row, there is no space, right? Now here we will write printf or space, then semicolon. After that, we will print the stars. How the stars are getting printed? See, in the first row, there is 5 stars. In the second row, there is 4 stars. So, row 1 your stars. So, if you do a diagram or a chart, so for the first row, there is 5 stars. For the second row, there is 4. Third, there is 3. For fourth row, there is 2 stars. And for the last fifth row, there is 1 star. So, from top to bottom, if you see the row number is increasing and the number of stars is decreasing, right? So how will we do this? We write for k equal to 5 because the maximum value was 5 and the trend is k greater than equal to I and k minus minus. We already did this, right? We already did this, right? And now what we will do here is, see, like the previous one also, there is space before every star pattern. See, there is space before every star pattern, there is space. See over here. If this is a star, here is a space. If this is a star, here is a space. If this is a star, here is a space. So we will write printf. Give a space over here, then with star, then semicolon. And after that, after printing the star is over, we are coming to the next line every time, right? And then printing the spaces followed by the stars. So how we do this? We will do this by printf \n. Right. So this was all about our code. So the first part, that is this part, is printing space. This part is printing the stars. Alright. So let's run this code in VS Code and let's see how it's working. So this is our VS Code and let's see how we implement this. Okay. So The I loop remains same. The J loop will start from 2 because from the second time onwards or the second row the space is getting printed. J less than equal to I, J plus plus, print a space, then it will be K equal to 5 because in the first row there is 5 stars, okay, and then it is decrementing by 1, then print it starts, and this is our code. Let's see if it's working properly or not. So this is our required pattern which we are opting to find out, right? So this is our star pattern or the equilateral triangle in inverted mode getting printed, right? I hope it is clear. So let's see the next pattern that we have over here. So let's see. So this is our next pattern. It's quite big. The shape of the pattern is quite big, but I know you are getting frightened by seeing the type. But it's very simple. You already know how to do this. Why? Because you already know. Because we already know how to print this one. This is the last one we did, right? And just before doing the last one, we did this one, right? And what we will do now? We will just write the code over here. Code of both the programs over here. We will write this part first and followed by this part. So the code of this one was already there and we will now do this part. Okay. So let's go to in our VS Code. So let's see in our VS Code. See in VS Code. Okay. So let's see in our VS Code how we do this. Okay. Because this pattern is already printed over here. We know how to print this one. The first one we know how to print. That is this one we already know how to print. And this one also. We already know how to print this one. So what we will do, we will just merge these two things and we will get a required pattern, that is this one. Okay. So let's go to VS Code and let's do this. So we are in our VS Code and as you can see, we already have the code for printing the inverted the equilateral triangle. Okay. Now, inverted equilateral triangle we are already printing. So what we will do next? We will print the vertical or the straight or the normal equilateral triangle. So for that, let's run the same code we had, that was for int I equal to 1, or let's just copy paste this code. Thing will remain the same but time will be reduced. We'll copy this and we will paste it over here. Okay, so the first group remains intact. The second group, it will be 4 because 4 stars are getting printed first. You already know why it is becoming 4, right? I have explained you while printing the equilateral triangle. So the number of spaces are decrementing every time. So it will be j minus minus. And in the k loop, it was 1 star in the first place, followed by 2 like that. So k less than equal to I, and then k plus plus, and then the rest of the things remain as it is. So this was our code for printing the typical pattern, if you can see. So as you can see, we are getting our required pattern, that is this one. Alright. So this was our pattern. This was our required pattern. If you can see over here, just a minute. This was our required pattern and we are getting the required thing in our VS Code, right? Now, just for experimental purpose, okay, question is not given like that. If I tell you to print this pattern, if you look over here, if I tell you to print a diamond shape, what can we do? If I tell you to print a diamond shape, okay, this was not the question, okay. If I tell you to print a diamond shape, okay, that is this one. If I tell you to print a diamond shape, can you print? Yes, you can print. Why? Because we know how to print this. We know how to print this. Okay. If you divide the diamond from the between, what we can get is, we get this first followed by this one first, right? So what we will print? We will print this pattern first, that is this equilateral triangle first, followed by this equilateral triangle. That is the inverted order. So let's go to VS Code. We'll do nothing. Just we will copy paste few things. We will copy the bottom part to the next part. We will copy this part and paste it in front, because we are requiring the straight triangle in the first case. That is called Control X, cut this and paste it before this one. Okay, and our code is done. This will print a diamond pattern. Let's see. So we are getting our required diamond pattern, or almost look alike like a diamond pattern, as you can see over here. Okay, now see, fault is over here because two straight lines are getting printed. So for that, you can just change any of the I loops to 4 and our problem will be solved. See, this is the actual diamond pattern which we are expecting over here. So our code is only this much. By reversing the previous code, we are obtaining the diamond pattern, and if you reverse this one also, we are getting our required pattern which was in the question. Okay, so that's all for today. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.